We're turning on the water so they can flush the toilet because the water floods. It comes out of the... Is he gone?
He just did it earlier just to show out, just to have a little bit of fun. Just getting back his items.
We may have commissary. We may have doctor sick call throughout the day.
Break it. If I think it's breakable, I'm gonna break it. If it takes me all night, I'm gonna break it. It's the way I feel.
Join us as we dive into some shocking footage that offers a glimpse into the brutal reality of life in juvenile lockup. Prepare to be shocked through the eyes of a camera crew. Filming behind bars. Filming inside prisons is an experience that is hard to describe. It's a world that is foreign to most people, and every day brings something new and unexpected. But one thing is for sure, spending a day inside a segregation unit is a unique and challenging experience that few people can handle. For camera crews, filming inside a prison is no easy feat. It requires them to be constantly alert and aware of their surroundings, and to be able to adapt quickly to changing situations. In a segregation unit, the stakes are even higher. Teens are locked in their cells for 23 hours a day, with no contact with the outside world. For them, boredom is one of the worst things about being locked up, and it can take a toll on their mental and emotional well-being.
It's pretty much the same every time. You don't know what to expect, so you're just ready for anything.
They have what?
They have battered staff on occasion, so you just gotta expect anything, be ready. They're going to see it.
But for camera crews, there is no time for boredom. They must be constantly on the move, following correctional officers as they make rounds and talk to teens in their cells. They must be able to capture every moment, every conversation, and every emotion, all while staying out of the way and avoiding any potential conflicts. In this behind-the-scenes video, viewers get a glimpse of what it's really like to spend a day inside a maximum security juvenile prison on a random weekday inside. From the eerie silence of the segregation unit to the emotional interview with a teen who is in his second stint behind bars, this video is a powerful reminder of the challenges faced by young people in the criminal justice system.
You need one? Huh? I need one too. Okay. Go ahead, man.
So tell me what you're doing.
We're giving out flushes. We call flushes. We're turning on their water so they can flush. Right now they're in general lock.
What's general lockdown?
It's when everybody's locked down in the room for a certain period amount of time. Because they start doing it. So then we have to turn off their water so the other kids don't. I mean, it happens. It's part of the job, so it happens. You need a flush? Alright, don't have to stand by the door. I could have flushed it for you.
The hidden realities. As you picture a juvenile detention center, the images that come to mind may be bleak and sobering. Long hallways filled with cells, dull-colored cafeterias, and barbed wire fences. These are the symbols of a system that replicates adult prisons with limited resources and a focus on punishment rather than rehabilitation. What you may not know is that 2/3 of confined youth are held in the most restrictive facilities, the juvenile justice versions of jails and prisons, according to the Prison Policy Initiative. These facilities are typically overcrowded, understaffed, and underfunded, with a high potential for hurt and mistreatment. But even beyond these facilities, there are many other forms of detention that are often hidden behind euphemisms. Residential treatment centers, wilderness programs, and other types of facilities may sound more therapeutic, but they can also be just as harmful and damaging to young people. The type of environment that a youth is placed in can have a significant impact on their overall health, education, safety, and access to services or trainings, and ultimately, it can affect their chances of reoffending in the future. Studies show that youth who are waiting for trial in a detention center have a 33% and 11% higher likelihood of felony recidivism and misdemeanor recidivism, respectively, according to a study conducted by Crime and Delinquency. Locked up and left behind. The harsh reality of life inside juvenile facilities is often overlooked by society. With strict schedules and confined living spaces, these young offenders are forced to navigate a world that is foreign and hostile. The cells they inhabit are often devoid of any personal touches, with just a bed or bunk beds, a desk, a sink, and a toilet. But for those considered violent or who have acted out, there is another form of confinement: solitary confinement. These padded cells offer little in terms of furniture and are heavily supervised to ensure safety, but the cost to the mental health of the teenagers placed there can be immense.
There you go, cross your legs. There you go, don't move a muscle. Hold on. Are you admin? Yeah, you are admin. Come back off strip sale. Basically, we took him off strip sale and we just gave him back his item. A strip sale? They're normally on a strip sale, depending on what they've done, 24, 40, or 70. Huh?
Lying.
No, I'm serious. Dr. Craig's secretary is here to see you.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Unfortunately, this type of confinement is not uncommon in juvenile facilities. Even more concerning is the fact that these facilities often lack access to essential services that could aid in the rehabilitation of these young offenders. A Fox News article cites Dr. Anila Khan, a psychiatrist at Drexel University, who warns that if you place any person, but especially a teenager or a child, in isolation and deprive them of meaningful human interactions, it can have long-lasting effects on their mental development and health. Despite the grave risks, nearly 48,000 youth are placed in juvenile facilities across the U.S. every day, with over 17,000 of them being confined in detention centers. Shockingly, many of these minors have not even been proven guilty or innocent and are simply being held while they await trial. The data shows that the reasons for their confinement are varied, ranging from technical violations to public order, drug, property and person offenses, and even status offenses. Unimaginable horrors. As soon as they enter the doors of a juvenile detention center, young offenders are at risk of facing unimaginable horrors. The conditions of these facilities can range from inadequate to downright cruel, with some centers housing children in the same building as adult offenders. For these young people, life behind bars can be a living nightmare. Understaffing is a common issue in juvenile detention centers, and the consequences can be dire. Some children are locked in their cells for up to 23 hours a day, with nothing but a mattress and a bookshelf to keep them company. Reports have emerged of children being forced to use water bottles as toilets, and self-harm is becoming an increasingly common occurrence as children become more and more desperate to escape their isolation. But it's not just the conditions that make life in juvenile detention centers so unbearable. Physical attacks are also rife, with around 10% of offenders falling victim to them.
It's a $50,000 apartment building. I don't know why, I was bored. I like fire. Came back, now I'm here. It took me 2 years to get out first time. Breaking desk off the wall, tearing screens off the door, putting a hole. If it's in my room, I get bored, I tear things up because I'm in a room 23 hours, almost 24, to get excitement, to get pain, do whatever I do, to go on the other side. I know what I'm doing, but I black out at the same time. Like if I see it,
The most vulnerable groups, such as LGBTQ+ residents, former victims of physical attacks, and those with gang affiliations, are at the highest risk of suffering those horrific exploitations. It's a system that fails young people in every way imaginable. Instead of rehabilitating and protecting them, it subjects them to hurt, trauma, and deprivation. For too many children, detention centers are a place of despair, where they face unspeakable violence and are robbed of their future. It's time for change. It's time to acknowledge the atrocities happening within these facilities and take action to protect the young people who are being failed by the system. No child deserves to be subjected to such horrors, and we must fight for a system that truly rehabilitates and supports them. The dark truths. The words rehabilitative environment paint a picture of a place where young people can learn from their mistakes, turn their lives around, and become contributing members of society. However, in reality, juvenile detention centers in the U.S. can be anything but rehabilitative. For many young people, they are places of punishment, isolation, and despair. The U.S. juvenile detention system has come under intense scrutiny in recent years due to the alarming number of reports of the harsh realities and negative effects on young people in detention. The reality of life in juvenile detention centers is bleak and often harmful for minors who are forced to spend time in these facilities.
The offenders, I had to wake up for them to be counted, but they all complied as they always. Prompts are done at certain times, specified times throughout the day for the whole facility, 10:30. After that, we have breakfast. After breakfast, they go out for recreation. They either have a half an hour for shower time, and then they have schooling from about 8:30 lunch, and then education comes again. Sometimes we have substance abuse and the DBT classes. The TVs just for the YIAs here, and they're just loaned out.
One of the biggest problems with juvenile detention system is the harsh living conditions for young people. They are often confined to small cells for extended periods with limited access to basic necessities such as food, water, and medical care. Many of these cells are also windowless, which can cause a sense of disorientation and confusion, especially for young people who have experienced trauma. Young people in juvenile detention often face physical and emotional abuse from staff and other inmates. Reports of violence and assault in juvenile detention centers are widespread, and it is not uncommon for minors to suffer from physical or emotional trauma as a result of their time in detention. Another issue with the juvenile detention system is the lack of access to education and job training. Many young people in detention are denied access to these opportunities, which can limit their future prospects and contribute to a cycle of poverty and criminal activity. Additionally, the lack of support for mental health and substance abuse issues can further exacerbate these problems and leave young people ill-equipped to deal with the challenges of adult life. Furthermore, the juvenile detention system disproportionately affects marginalized communities, including low-income families and communities of color. These groups are overrepresented in detention facilities, which often leads to a further cycle of poverty and criminal activity. This systemic inequality perpetuates the problem of youth incarceration and makes it difficult to address the root causes of juvenile delinquency. In many cases, young people in juvenile detention centers are subjected to harsher punishments than adults who commit similar crimes. They may be denied due process or legal representation, which can result in lengthy and unfair sentences. This treatment of minors is insanely inhumane. What are rights again? Forget about them if you're in juvie lockup. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.